What's up, smart homers? My name's Aaron, and in this video, I want to go over the basics of Home Assistant dashboards. Dashboards in Home Assistant are more powerful than ever, and with features like sections, improved badges, and the tile card, there's never been a better time to jump into building the interface for your smart home. Dashboards are composed of views, sections, badges, and cards, and we're going to go over the basics of each of these. Now, when you first start Home Assistant, it creates a default dashboard for you, but when you take control, you can really customize it just the way you want. When you first start with Home Assistant, the default dashboard is called Overview. It's not very good though, and we're going to want to create our own. And to do this, we go to Settings, Dashboards, Add Dashboard, and then a pop-up will appear with some options. Option 1 is to create a new dashboard from scratch. And this is the one we're going to use, but I want to explain the other options. Option 2 is to use the Home Assistant default dashboard, but we know that doesn't look the greatest since it's actually the same as the overview dashboard that we start with. Option 3 is to create a map dashboard, which is really a dashboard that has a single page, a single card, and that card is a map that covers the whole thing. If you're starting Home Assistant the first time, there already is a map dashboard built in, so we're just going to skip that one. Option 4 is to create a dashboard using the URL of a web page of your choice, but I have not been able to get this to work, so we're going to skip that one. Option 5 is to create an areas dashboard, which is a little bit smarter of a Home Assistant generated dashboard, as it uses the areas that are tied to each of your devices to build a dashboard for you. It gives you a dashboard with an overview of all the areas defined in your smart home, and then it has separate views for each area. You can see how it works here, and while it's kind of nifty, it also puts a lot of the junk entities there that I really don't want to see on a dashboard. Okay, so having gone over those options, let's go with option 1 and create our own from scratch. It asks for a title, an icon, and a URL. The icon comes from a list of material design icons, and if you want to see a whole library of those, I'll leave a link in the description to the material design icon library. If you leave it blank, it's going to use the default dashboard icon. The URL is generated automatically, but you can change it if you want. The URL will be important for dashboard navigation, which I'll show an example of later on, but for now we'll leave it. You can also choose whether it should be admin only or visible in the sidebar, but we'll just leave them as they are for now and click create. Now, if we click open by that dashboard in our list, we'll see the blank dashboard with the word home at the top. We can put our dashboard into edit mode by clicking the pencil in the upper right corner. The first subcomponent of dashboards that I want to talk about is called views. These are pretty much just tabs within the dashboard that help with organization and navigation. With the dashboard in edit mode, you can see the default view called Home in the top left. We can edit that view now by clicking the pencil next to it, and you can see quite a few options. Don't let all these options overwhelm you though. You can mostly leave them all default. It's just that us Home Assistant nerds love customization, and that's why they're all available to you. Basically, there are 3 tabs at the top here: Settings, Background, and Visibility. Let's start with settings. First, we have the option to define the layout. This is basically how the cards will be arranged in the view. Sections is the default, and it's the best in my opinion. Masonry will give you a brick-like layout, which is adjusted semi-automatically as you add cards. Sidebar gives you a virtual column of cards justified left up against the sidebar. And panel creates a view that only allows a single card, and that card takes up the entire dashboard. We'll stick with sections, and we can give the view a title. So let's call it main. We'll set an icon, and in this case, if you set an icon, that's going to show up instead of the title in the tab for this view up at the top. The URL option will allow you to use navigation to this view, like I mentioned before with the dashboard itself, but for now we're going to leave that blank. The theme option allows you to set a custom theme for this view by itself, which will override the default or backend selected theme. We're not going to get into themes in this video. That would be a subject for a different video, but there are lots of themes available for download, and if you install them, it can really help your dashboard to pop. The subview toggle allows you to set the view as a hidden view, and this means it's not going to appear in those tabs at the top of the dashboard, and it can only be accessed by navigation. Subviews are automatically given a back button in the top left corner, so that you can back out of it and go back to the previous page where you navigated from. Lastly, since we have the sections type selected, we get this extra set of options. These set how many sections, kind of like columns of cards that you want to allow across your dashboard. In my experience, 3 columns is plenty, especially if you want to do like a wall mounted 10-inch tablet, but if you're using a large screen, you may want to have more columns. Dense section placement tries to optimize space usage, but it's actually going to make it look less organized in my opinion, so we're going to skip that. We'll leave the add additional space above unchecked as it's really not necessary. Now let's jump over to the background tab. Here you can set an image as a background for your view, and you can even adjust the opacity. You can adjust how it moves when scrolling and even the size, alignment, and tiling of the image. In our case, we're gonna leave it blank because I think that sometimes the background image can distract from the actual content on the dashboard. Lastly, you have the visibility tab, which just allows you to control which users in Home Assistant can see the view. If all the settings look good, we hit the save button. Now let's talk about badges, since they're the first thing you might want to add to a view. Badges appear at the top of views and are great for quick glance info like door status, temperature or weather info, and pretty much whatever you want. They've improved a ton since my last dashboard for beginners video, both aesthetically and how you can build them. Above the badge section, you can see a spot for a title, and this just puts some text at the top of your view if you want it. It could be a welcome message written right in the background of the view, or it could be its own card if you want. And you can see that you can use templating and styling, which are a little bit more advanced features, to put whatever information there and make it look however you want. On to the badges themselves now. You click the add badge icon to add one, and you'll see that the only badge types available are the entity type or the manual type. The manual type allows you to put whatever type of card you want up in the badges section of the dashboard, adding it manually via code, and we'll cover cards later. And the entity type allows you to show information about an entity on a small chip style card. If you aren't familiar with the custom mushroom card set, these badge cards are based on the chip card from the custom mushroom card set. We'll look at those custom cards near the end of the video. Let's choose the entity option, and then we'll choose an actual entity for the card. We'll choose this light. The content section allows you to give the badge a name and set the color of the icon, or let the color be controlled by the state of the light. Here you can see that when the light is off, the icon is gray, but if it's on, the icon is the color of the light since it's an RGB lamp. You can also change that icon completely if you want. The show entity picture option is used if the entity is a camera, I think, so we're going to leave that off. Below that are the displayed elements checkboxes, and you can use these to determine what info will be on the card and what won't. Below that, you can see the state content dropdown, which allows you to choose which attributes of that entity's state you want to be shown on the badge. Lastly, you can choose what happens when you interact with the badge, and you can see that I'm setting it so that tapping or clicking it will bring up the light controls, and holding it will just toggle that light. After that, we'll hit save, and here you can see me add another one. This one is for the weather forecast. One other thing I want to show is the visibility tab. This allows you to only show the badge when certain conditions are met, and it's really cool. For example, maybe I want to have a little badge that says something about mail, like I've got mail in my mailbox. But maybe I only want it to show when I do have mail, but if I don't want it to be there at all. Before I show this, if you don't know how to set up a mail presence helper in Home Assistant to kind of tell you the status of presence of mail, I made a whole video on that, and that's the current automation that I'm still using, so it's worth checking that out. And although it may be a little out of date, it uses what's called a toggle helper, and the status of that toggle is on or off, on meaning there is mail, and off meaning there's not. Okay, so we'll add a new badge, click entity, and set the mail present toggle as the entity. You can see right now that it's been set to off, meaning that there is no mail. In the content section, I'll turn off the state, and in the interactions section, I'll set the tap behavior to toggle. Now we'll click the visibility tab, and you can see the add condition button. If we click that, we can see the entity state option, which is what we want. We'll set it so that the state is equal to on, meaning if there is mail present, the badge will be visible. Now we can save, and in edit mode, you can still see that icon, but if we hit done at the top, it's going to disappear. Why? Because there's no mail present. Now, if I toggle the mail present entity, simulating us getting mail, you can see that the mail badge has showed up. Tapping or clicking the badge will dismiss it. This visibility control is available for all badges, sections, and cards. So I'm not going to go into these same details for each one of those, but just know for each section, card, and badge, you can make it turn on or off depending on certain conditions. There's more that you can do with these badges, and I want to show you a cool one later on in the video, but for now, let's move on. Sections are something new since the last time I made a dashboard video for Home Assistant. Pretty much, they allow you to group related cards together under a heading. This is really useful for organizing dashboards, especially if you have a wall-mounted tablet or something like that. To create one, let's click the Create Section button, and you can see that a new one appears, and it has a drag and drop handle, an edit button, and a delete button on the top. The edit button allows you to change how wide the section will be, and if you click the visibility tab at the top there, it allows you to set the conditions for this section to be visible like I mentioned. This is so cool. An entire section of your dashboard can disappear and reappear based on certain conditions. You can see that it's already given the name New Section, and this is in a heading card, but you can edit that to change the name by hovering over it and clicking the pencil button. You can change the heading style, you can change the text, and you can even give the section title an icon. There are options to give it some interactions, assign entities to it, and even edit the entity display so you can have it just show the icon or other state content besides the default. Once you hit save, you can then start adding cards to that section. Now, one thing I want to mention, you can remove that heading if you don't want it or you want to make your own custom heading at the top of your section. You don't have to use that one. Now, let's talk about cards. Cards are the building blocks of your dashboard, and they can either be built-in cards provided by Home Assistant or custom cards provided by a third party. I obviously am not going to show you every card and how they're configured, but I'll show you generally how cards work with one of the newer built-in cards. After that, we can get into some custom cards. The newest and my favorite of the built-in cards is the tile card. This tile card is modeled after the custom mushroom cards like the badges. The tile card and every built-in card offers the 3 tabs at the top: configure, visibility, and layout. You can add an entity like a light and it will display it in a sleek modern style similar to the original mushroom cards. You can give it a custom name, change the icon, and adjust the layout from horizontal to vertical depending on your preference. You can also customize the tap behavior so that tapping it can trigger different actions. And under the feature section, you can add elements like a brightness slider, which can be displayed inline or at the bottom of the card. You can also add a color temperature slider, though it's not going to show a full color picker even if you have an RGB light, which is kind of a bummer. If you prefer, you can set the tap action to bring up the more info dialog, and there you can have full color control. The visibility and the layout tabs allow you to conditionally hide them and adjust their size. When you hit save, you can see that the card is created and the default size made it so that it takes up half of the width of a section. If we want to change that, we adjust the width in the layout tab. So if we were to create another tile card, you can see that it would drop in next to that one quite nicely. And that's kind of the point of these cards and how sections get built. Notice that this second card is shorter because it doesn't have a slider, and that gives more room for another card underneath that if we wanted. We could, though, adjust the size or the layout of the information so that it takes up that space below it, so we keep things even, just 2 cards in this row. That's generally how card building works, so I'll just add a couple more cards so you can see what a section looks like with more than one in it. Now that we've created a few cards, I want to demonstrate how sections and cards work with drag and drop. In the first section we created, you can see that by clicking and holding, you can drag and drop the cards around. This is actually a somewhat new feature that had been requested for so many years, and finally we can drag and drop. Now I'm saying finally even though it's been out for a while, but this is me getting to the new version of dashboards. Not only can you do this with cards, but you can also drag and drop entire sections, which makes rearranging your dashboard super easy. If you're just getting started with dashboards, you don't know the pain of doing it the old way. This is why I chose the section style dashboard. It allows for a very organized dashboard layout. Now in the current setup, cards can be added via the UI like I've shown, and that's the easiest way to do it, or they can be edited via YAML using the code editor. Using YAML code gives you more precise control with these cards over things like icon, color, and behavior of the card. We'll cover a bit of that in this next section. This next section I call Next Level Dashboarding because we're going to be kicking it up a notch. Don't say I didn't warn you. To follow along, you're going to need to have the Home Assistant Community Store installed on your Home Assistant instance. And even though I'm showing you the process right now, I'm not giving you a tutorial, but you could easily find a tutorial on YouTube and follow it. I made one last year that should be mostly up to date, but if not, someone else has. The community store is a great place to find custom cards as well as mods that change how dashboards can be configured. If you're using Home Assistant, at some point, you're going to run into this programming language called YAML. Now, all the nerds out there will say it's not a programming language. I don't care. I'm just using the word language. Dashboards, views, badges, and cards can all actually be modified using YAML code. Most custom cards that you're going to find in the Home Assistant community store cannot be configured via the UI and instead need to be configured using YAML code. While reviewing my last video in preparation for this one, I found that a lot of my favorite custom cards in that video are still my favorite today. So while I won't go over all of them again, I highly recommend you watch that video to see those. For this video, I'm just going to show you 3 of my favorites. The first one is called Mushroom. And like I mentioned before, it's a collection of custom cards that look really good. They're visually appealing and versatile, perfect for displaying buttons or controls on your dashboard. Once you install them through hacks, you can return to your dashboard and enter edit mode. And then you can add one of these cards via the UI. Now what I want to do is show you how to use one of these mushroom cards as a badge. If we add another badge, you're going to notice that there is a custom mushroom template. This card is a very open-ended card, allowing you to in-depth customize the icon color, label, and content with Jinja templating. And this templating allows you to do things like set if statements. So if the state of an entity is this, then the icon should be this and the color should be this. It gets crazy. You can also set different behaviors for taps, holds, and double taps. And in the visibility tab, you can again add conditions for whether the badge shows up at all. It's a super flexible card. Now let me show you an example of one that I created. And this one is for my 3D printer named Elsie, which is my Ender 3 V3 Plus. For this badge, the entity is the printer state provided through its integration. The icon uses a conditional template to change based on the printer's status. One icon for when it's printing, another for when the print is complete, and a different one for when the printer is off. Currently, since the printer is active, it shows the mid-print icon and the percentage of the job completed. I've set the icon to purple, and the label uses a template to display the print progress percentage. If the print's complete, it'll just say done, and if it's waiting for a job, it'll say standby. The content just shows the printer's name for easy reference. Now you may be asking me, Aaron, how did you learn this templating? And the answer is ChatGPT, baby. You can put simple queries into ChatGPT and it will build these templates for you. And then looking at them, you're going to have to tweak them a little bit because it's never perfect, but you can get some really cool customization. I've also set the tap behavior to navigate directly to the printer's device page in Home Assistant. And this is where I want to show you what navigation is. To achieve this, I copied the URL of the printer's device page and set it as the navigation link. This way, clicking the badge takes me straight to Elsie's page. So navigation can be done to any dashboard or any view even if the view has a URL. This is really cool because you can jump really quickly by clicking a button on a dashboard rather than having to go find that view. You can actually even navigate to the settings menu and things like that in Home Assistant. Pretty much every different page in Home Assistant has its own URL, and you can make a navigation button that takes you there. I want to look at 2 more custom components for Home Assistant. And the first one is the Stack In card. This card allows you to take multiple existing cards and fuse them into one single card. To do this, you need to edit your dashboard in YAML mode. By clicking the pencil icon for the section you're editing, clicking the 3-dot menu, and selecting Edit in YAML, you can see that a section is actually just a grid card containing different elements like the clock and weather cards. To stack them, you just need to add a new line with the YAML code for a Stack In card as I've shown here. Then you indent the 2 cards that you want to join so that they fall inside the Stack In card. Once you save it, you're going to see how both cards are now combined into one and they share the same background. One issue you may notice, depending on what theme you're using, believe it or not, is that there are these visible lines between the stacked cards due to their borders. This is where the next custom component comes in, and probably my favorite. This one's called Card Mod, which you also install via hacks, and it allows you to modify the CSS styling of your cards. This means you can adjust things like borders, shadows, background colors, margins, text sizes, and so much more. By using card mod, we can eliminate those borders around the cards and create that seamless look for those stacked cards. All right, lastly, I want to show you an example of how I made my own completely custom card by combining mushroom cards, stacking cards, and using card mod to give it a polished look. I made this card for controlling my robotic vacuum. Before I did this, I explored various custom cards in Home Assistant Community Store and the built-in cards, but none of them met my needs, so I decided to make my own. In this example, the card displays the vacuum entity at the top, and below it there are multiple buttons for different commands like start or pause, stop, locate, send to a specific room, and spot clean. Essentially, all these elements are combined into one cohesive card by fusing them using the stack in card horizontally. If we switch to YAML mode, you can see how the structure works. At the top, I have a custom mushroom template card, similar to the badge we created earlier, and this top section shows my robotic vacuum and its current state. Right now, it's cleaning. I've also added functionality so that tapping this section can start the vacuum. Using card mod, I've removed the background and shadow to ensure a seamless, continuous look. Below that, I've included a horizontal stack card, which lines up all the control buttons in a single row. To maintain a cohesive look, I've used additional styling with card mod to remove any borders and adjust padding and margins, ensuring that this card fits perfectly with the rest of the mushroom themed cards. Overall, it looks great. I even made a second one for my other robotic vacuum. This is an example of the power of Home Assistant and the power of advanced dashboarding, where you can put all these cards together to make something beautiful. If you haven't seen the custom person card that I've built that shows a little cartoon image of me and actually shows headphones when music is playing, I made a whole video about that and it's definitely worth checking out. So, what do you guys think? Was this helpful for beginners? I hope it was, and whether you're new or experienced, I hope I gave you some ideas for something that you can do with your dashboard. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and if you want to help out the channel, consider becoming a channel member, or at least hitting the like button to help with the algorithm. Definitely subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and as always, thanks for watching. See ya.